Warning, the upcoming story is basically shit post I wrote in 20 minutes. I recommend you don't listen to this unless you want weird pictures in your head. You're welcome, and thanks for watching. It was a Tuesday morning and my dad was out on his morning walk. He'd always go on walks from like 6 to 7 a.m. He'd always find it rather calming and relaxing to warm up his legs as he's a sporty kind of guy. The clock was 6:28 a.m. and I had just woken up. Like I'd imagined, my dad was already out on his morning walk. I was so hungry I would walk out into the kitchen and prepare cereal. I grabbed the box, opened it and thought, oh no, because it was empty. I realized I had to go to the store to buy some more cereal, but because I'm a lazy dude I made a sandwich instead. Like I'd imagined, the sandwich was great, 10 out of 10, would eat again. I had nothing to do, so I decided to go watch TV. The time ran by and was now 8:37 a.m. I'd expect my dad to be home by now, but he disappeared. At the time I thought that maybe he'd stumbled upon a friend on the walk or maybe even went to the store to buy something, but there was always this thought that maybe he wouldn't come back. I called my uncle in hopes that he would know where my dad was. He picked up the phone and said,
"Hey, sweet cheeks, how are you doing?"
I replied saying, I'm not in the mood right now. My dad was out walking and he hasn't come home yet. He let out a grunt saying,
Would you like Uncle Tommy to come over?
I said no and hung up the phone. I turned the TV off and went back to my room to play some video games, but then I heard a sound from my basement that sounded like this. I rushed to the door that leads to my basement and caught a grip on the handle. I slowly opened the door to the basement and saw my dad crouching down there naked on the lower steps with a giant grin on his face. He says,
"It's time!"
with a very perverted voice. He rushes up the steps with his schlong dangling in all directions. I rush to the kitchen with him chasing after me bare naked. He pushes me over the counter and says,
It's time to do the natural deeds, my son!
He pulls down my pants as I reach for the knife. He slowly moves his cobra against my no-no zone. I catch a grip on the knife and cuts him on the side of his stomach. He falls to the floor as his blood flows out of his body like a fountain. I call the police and await for them to arrive. 4 minutes later, my uncle shows up at my doorstep. He yells out,
Baby cakes, you said you were home alone? I brought your favorite cookies.
I shake in panic and reply, No, Uncle Tommy. Nobody is home. He then leaves the area, thinking nothing more of it. My dad gets back up on his legs again. He covers his bleeding spot and says,
My son, why do you do this? I just wanna cuddle.
I reply saying, Dad, you're a sick man. He pulls out his phone out of his butthole and says,
You're just jealous because I'm sexy.
As he rubs his belly. I rush up to him and push him up against the wall. I take the shit-covered phone and bash his head in. Take that, you gross man, I say as he drops dead to the ground. Then I take the knife on the table and slit my throat. After that, the police arrive and they take both their bodies and throw them in the sea. The end. Thank you guys so much for listening to this dumb story. Let me know if you want to hear more dumb stories in the future, maybe. Yeah, maybe not as fucked or maybe even more fucked. Depends on how you want them. But anyways, thank you all so much for listening. Yeah, I'm repeating myself now. But yeah, have a nice one.
Peace.